Okay, so this is sort of me introducing my next project, which is this video. And today I'm going to be looking at turning this, which is quite a cheap bed frame that I bought off the internet, and this, which is an old 1980s wardrobe, into an Art Deco skyscraper bed. So this is something I've never done before. I'm pretty sure I know how to do it, so on with the video.
Yeah, so the first thing I had to do was to strip all the sort of old hardware off the doors so I could cut them down, because the whole idea with this was to make a skyscraper bed by using the three sort of panel doors from this wardrobe as both the headboard and the footboard. So it would be cutting them basically as far up as I could without the holes from the handle being visible, to give the maximum height for the centerboard, and then the two side pieces would be lower and at equal heights to give a stepped headboard. So yeah, all this hardware that was on the doors had to come off. The backs of these doors won't be seen at all once it's together. But yeah, so there you can see them all sort of stacked against the back of the bed. Now, there was a very slight difference in the width between the three doors and the width of the bed, which was about sort of 10 mil. So what I did was, in between each of the doors, I infilled with some black painted hardwood beading, which is actually something that I have seen on some photos of genuine Art Deco skyscraper beds. This sort of black, I think, ebony infill. Now, I mean, I couldn't get bits of ebony, but what I did was I used some oak beading rubbed with acrylic paint to give that effect. So, as I say, those were cut down with a handsaw, basically because when I'm cutting something like this, it's got very thin veneer, or in this case veneered chipboard, I find there's less issues with splintering the veneer when using a handsaw. Now there you can just see the black edging on one of the boards, and also I've cut that hole out in the centre of the centreboard. This is just to allow a bit of ventilation under the bed, because it will all be sealed in. The super glue that I'm adding here to these is not really structural. It's just to hold all of the pieces together while I put all the screws in. So it's to stop everything moving around. So that's part of the bed frame you can see me adding there. And that piece of wood's just a piece of wood that I had in the workshop anyway. A sort of spare piece of wood. So I put a lot of screws into this, to be fair, far more than really you probably need. It's just, with this coming so high above the actual frame of the bed, I was aware that there could be potentially a lot of force on it, especially if you were, say, sitting up in bed, leaning against the headboard. So I just tried to put in as many screws as I possibly could. So there you can see I'm just packing out with some scrap plywood. And there you can see something that did irk me at the time, which was the end of the driver bit actually roll underneath the board, and it took me ages to find that when I was building this, because I sort of looked all over the workshop and couldn't find it. So there I'm adding an extra piece onto the back as well, high level, just to stop the doors moving against each other again, mainly if you're just leaning against the headboard, sort of sat up in bed, so that there's just no movement, because the last thing you want is these doors sort of creaking against each other because there's movement in between them. Then I put some really long, these are I think these are about 2 or 3 inch, 2.5 inch probably long screws into the actual legs of the bed frame. So this was to really tie it all down and, as they prevent that movement. It's to avoid it's to spread the load, spread the forces, and also prevent sort of any squeaking or creaking on as sort of movement of wood against wood, as say, especially if you're sort of leaning against the headboard, sat up in bed reading a book or whatever, which is something I do quite regularly. Then this is making the footboard. This is using the rest of the doors. So, well, I say the rest of the doors, the bottom sections of the doors. So again, repeating that same motif with a higher centre board and 2 equal height boards either side of it. Again, cutting down with a handsaw because I'm cutting across the grain. When I did the long side pieces, I did actually cut them with a jigsaw. You'll see that a bit later on. Because sort of going down the grain, there seems to be less of a problem with it splitting. Again, off camera, I added these ventilator grills into the bottom. So these I found online. There's some chrome, I think they might actually be stainless steel rather than chrome, ventilator grills that, trying to find ones with square holes that were very much sort of that Art Deco style was fairly difficult, but I did manage to get some eventually. And here you can see the whole process of adding those strips. Again, the super glue is not structural, it is just to hold it. And then I tried to clamp it. The clamp didn't fit, so gave up on that idea and moved on. Now, that's just a super glue activator, kicker, whatever you want to call it. Measuring up for something. Oh yeah, because I'm going to add a piece of wood here. Basically, the bed frame is exactly the length and width of a double mattress. So this piece of wood here, again, super glue just to hold everything together while I get the screws in. This is very much to just space the footboard very slightly. In this case, it's only about sort of 3/4 of an inch off the end of the bed frame, just to give that little bit of room so it makes it a bit easier to turn the mattress. So, because obviously otherwise that middle board would be straight right up against the end of the mattress, really squashing everything in and make it very difficult to get your hands under it to turn it. So yeah, so that's, and then obviously I had to do the same going down the legs to give some strength to the legs. And this time, of course, all the screws had to come through from the inside rather than from the back, because the other side would be visible, because that's the way a footboard works. But yeah, you can see around the back of those vents is really quite rough. And here you can see me adding, again, just rubbed in black acrylic paint, which is to hide the pale wood, so it just continues that sort of black line that exists in other places on the bed. And this is stripping all the hardware off one of the wardrobe side panels, ready to cut that down to make the sides of the bed. Yeah, that's trying to get the rail mounts out. They were a little tricky. And this, as I say, I did cut with a jigsaw, marking it off at the height. This will actually come just up to the bed frame, so actually below the edge of the mattress. So there was a few problems. I'll talk about this a little bit in a bit. Yeah, the masking tape that I put on there was basically to stop the base of the jigsaw from scratching up the wood. At some point I want to actually make like a felt sort of pad that can fit the bottom of the jigsaw, so that when I'm cutting polished wood I can use that. So this is to say, this is now mounting this onto the bottom of the bed, just aligning it all, and then this has to say had to be screwed through from inside. That's just checking with the side panel that everything would fit. I think this might actually be yeah, I don't think I've got any footage of me actually attaching the bottom board, the footboard, but here you can see me attaching the side panel. Now this I initially did using magnetic catches, some very strong magnetic catches. I found this didn't actually work because what I didn't account for was the fact that when you lie on the mattress sort of spreads at the bottom and pushes these off the side of the bed. So you'll see when I show the photos of it in situ that I ended up putting in some filler pieces in between the side panels of the bed and the two drawer units, which I don't actually have footage of me making them. It's like I don't have footage of me making the boards that go on the back of the headboard across to the drawer units that have the switches for the bedside lights in them. I didn't film that. So this is the two drawer units. Again, these are the same, well, from the same essentially bedroom suite, if you like, as the wardrobe. So this is a 1980s G-plan bedroom suite. And here you can see me going over both drawer units with some light wood polish and scratch cover, because these did have a few sort of, well, quite a lot really, of sort of shallow surface scratches on them, and also some lighter patches where the handles were. Not that that really matters, because with my plan for the handles, which you're seeing coming together here, so for the handles, I could not get Art Deco handles that matched the spacing of the 1980s G-plan drop handles. So what I did was I added behind each of the handles these chromed plates. Now these are actually just push plates for finger plates, like for doors, that I've added behind them, and then basically drilling through both those and the drawer to put the pull handles on, some Art Deco style repro pull handles, which you can see me doing here, clamping a piece of wood in at the back so that there's no blowout on the back of the drawer when I drill through. There you can see one going in with the handle on. So, I mean, to me it looks quite effective. It's certainly a thing I have seen on period pieces, this sort of large sort of handle with the big accent piece of chrome behind them. So that's one drawer unit done, and we'll move on and get the other one done. But yeah, I mean, if you start to see this all come together. So this is the end of the video, and I'm now just showing a few photos. So this is the bed, first moved upstairs, and the drawer units brought up to join it. And this is sort of after it was all finished and all put together, and after I started using the room. So I don't really want to talk too much about the rest of the room, because the focus of this is really the bed. So you can see there like the infill bits that I didn't capture on video. They have sort of the switches for the light and just a block that holds the side onto the bed, and all of that was just built up from the same board, bits of the old wardrobe. And thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified.